when we set our mind to something, it gets done.
Yep.
It gets done. It's just the way it is.
Start with a vision. You have
exactly.
to
You start with a vision.
with what you want to get done, and then you'll do it.
Yeah,
and you have to want it.
This thing was churning around in my head for about 5 years before it just hit critical mass, and I had to start writing it down.
1, 2, 3, go.
Jennifer Hardy Har.
Believe it or not,
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana Show.
the Lawyer Dana podcast.
Wow, we have a lot to talk about.
Then we're going to do it right after this.
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana Podcast.
So, interesting thing. So, last September, I actually quit drinking.
Really?
Yeah. I had a health issue.
Oh.
And it's not what you think. I never had a problem with alcohol. As a matter of fact, I was on the Vivino wine rating app. I was as high as number 20 and could have gotten probably to number 1 if I would have wanted to put more effort into it. This was just me hobby taking, because on Fridays I would go to a wine club where we would all open a bottle of wine and share every bottle. So I would rate like 20 wines a week.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was high enough on the app to go into any vineyard in the world, and they go, well, like in France, Monsieur Palmer, are you?
That is cool.
Are you a wine? Are you in the industry? And I could say, yes, here, and they would give me the VIP treatment, which it was great. And I've had some of the greatest wines in the world, but I had an inflammation diet-related problem that was making a disc in my back bulge, and I wouldn't have been able to walk, and just, it might have killed me. It was just one of those things where it was a nightmare, and I felt the disc bulge, and I was upstairs in my house on a Sunday night, and half an hour to get downstairs into my bed.
Oh, my Lord.
And then I went to the chiropractor the next morning, acupuncture straight from there, chiropractor again in the afternoon, and then I had an MRI on it. And I basically was fasting. It was so painful, I just wasn't eating. And that morning, that Monday morning, my chiropractor, he was like, look, he had adjusted me, and I'm on my back. And he goes, look, I don't think this is actually very mechanical for you. I think this is diet related. And we had this conversation about how much diet, nutrition education that chiropractors get. He's like, yeah, we actually get a lot of that because it's very integrated. He goes, look, for you, I'm going to do a test of somewhere where I think you also have some other inflammation. You're not really feeling it because of this, but I'm going to push. And he pushes right here, like less than I'm pushing now. Now I'm like, I could take a gut punch right now. Mm-hmm. But he lightly pushed, and it was excruciating. It's just horrible. Wow. So just inflammation. And so I massively changed my diet to now I eat meat, fish, try to avoid shellfish for the most part, vegetables, fruits, and nuts.
Mediterranean.
Pretty much. Yeah. And I've lost 40 pounds. I quit, and plus I quit drinking because I was on the table with him, and I'm going, all right, you know what? I know it's because I put on the extra weight because I was up to about 220 again. I was 235 at the heaviest.
I kicked the carbs a long time ago.
Did you? You look fit. You look good.
Yeah, I started walking.
You look youthful.
10,000 steps a day.
Oh, nice.
So I got an app. So I walk 10,000 steps a day. I didn't give up the booze, but I gave up the carbs.
Oh, there.
And I'm trying
That's
to
a major part of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of red meat now and only doing... Oh, sorry. I didn't know we were recording. Okay.
No, we're good.
Yeah. I took trying to once every month or two red meat, but the rest of the time fish and chicken.
I eat a lot of red meat.
Yeah, red meat's not.
That's going to be one of the hardest
good.
things for me to quit. I could if I had to, but since I don't have to, I don't know if I will.
Yeah, and I love red meat, but I just now it's a treat.
How old are you?
I am 50, gonna be 52.
52.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you look amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, I would not have thought 52 at all.
I've stopped giving up. I've given up
You have
trying to
very
figure out how
youthful
old people
skin.
are.
Well, thank
So,
you,
yeah.
thank you. I it's my regimen.
How long have you been in radio and in TV and in?
My first gig was in 92 or 94. It was a little small radio station in Southern California in a place called Santa Isabel, which is down the road from Julian. Maybe you've heard of Julian apple pies.
Oh, yeah.
They're kind of well, they're rather famous. So just down the road, there's a place called Dudley's Bakery in Santa Isabel. It's the only one of 3 buildings in town. And our studio was right on top of a grocery store and Dudley's Bakery.
So did it just smell amazing? Like,
Every day. It was like, oh man, talk about.
how did you resist? I mean,
I know, I
it
didn't.
smells like, oh yeah.
Back then I was young.
You could do it.
Just everything. But yeah, that was my first gig. I showed up and I asked the program director, who ended up being a very dear friend of mine, I'll do anything. I'll run sandwiches. I'll clean your toilets. I'll do anything. I just want to learn. And he said, okay.
That's that work ethic.
That's the work ethic, yeah. So I was tending bar, waiting tables, and every day I would go up there and I would write the news for the afternoon DJ.
Oh, wow.
Because it was a really small radio station. You guys ever watch Northern Exposure back in the day?
Yes, my mom used to watch it.
Just think of that radio station. That's what it was.
Yes.
I used to watch WKRP.
Yeah, WKRP in Cincinnati. Yeah, we were a soft hits and easy oldies station, and I ended up after a while I was typing the news, and after 6 months I was reading the news, and then I joined the morning show with my boss, and $5 an hour. That's what I was making.
That's cool.
$5 an hour.
I actually remember when $5 an hour, I was happy to make it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When I was a teenager.
Yep. And that's where I got my start. I ultimately got into traffic and then the weather. I did TV weather out in San Diego, which is, you don't need a degree out there for weather. And
it's nice outside, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Sunny and 70. Nothing new. Back to you. And then I got a chance to leave weather and get onto the news desk. And that's when I got out here to Texas in 2006.
Cool.
Awesome.
So speaking of reading, so Jennifer has read your book, Liberty Rises. Available on Amazon?
Amazon,
obviously,
yep.
And just on a website too, or just
Amazon. Well,
Amazon,
you can go to chrissalcedo.com and you can get a link, but it just takes you right to Amazon.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so Jennifer's read it, but I haven't. And here's why.
Okay.
I'm massively limited on time. I've read 2.5 pages.
I am so far
But-
behind on my reading, dude. I know exactly what you're going through.
I need an audiobook. If you had an audiobook of that, I could have listened to it 3 times.
3 times in the car.
So-
yeah,
yeah.
Everybody is. It's just with the radio show.
You want me
in
to
the
make you
morning-
one? Guys, we're going to be here later.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just verbally
I'm just gonna
read the book.
This.
I'm going to read it out loud. I may as well.
Yeah, I mean, I get up, I do the radio show, then I do the promos for the radio show, then I get into a meeting for the TV show, then I do the work all day, have a break for lunch, then do the TV show, then do the podcast, then start prep for the radio show the next. That's my Monday. I am in the studio from 7 in the morning until, or 6:30 in the morning, really, until 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, every day.
Wow.
So you do the podcast every day too? You're daily?
It's a daily, yeah.
Wow.
So it's again, so far behind, and I have been wanting to do Liberty Rises and do an audiobook.
You can hire a reader to do it.
I thought about it, but
Do you want it to be in your voice?
That too. And the fun fact, I was late for the interview today because I'm busy enough to be comfortable, but I'm not busy enough to have a personal assistant or rich enough to have a personal assistant to keep it all straight. So, yeah, it's just
She made me have a personal assistant. She forced me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Whether I could afford it, whether I wanted it, she made me. So Jennifer in the day job,
becoming the personal assistant.
It's like, no.
she's the administrator.
That's not happening.
She's the administrator for our law firm.
Yeah.
And I, as the CEO, I'm running 2 companies. I do the podcast. And actually, I heard an Arnold Schwarzenegger inspired thing, and he said, every time somebody said that I couldn't do something, that's what I heard was I definitely can.
It's not a tumor. Yeah. That's what I heard.
When I said it was not a tumor, I knew it was a tumor.
Exactly.
And Jennifer was starting to get, you can't do all this, you can't do all this. I was like, yes, we can. We're going to find a way. We're going to figure out a way because I know I can do it, and I'm going to do it. If I'm committed to do it, I will do it. And
that's how my wife and I are. When we set our mind to something, it gets done.
Yep.
It gets done. It's just the way
with
it
a
is.
vision. You have
Exactly.
to
You start with a vision.
with what you want to get done, and then you'll do it.
Yeah. And
you have to want it.
This thing was churning around in my head for about 5 years. before it just hit critical mass and I had to start writing it down. That's exactly how Liberty Rises.
I will tell you, you did hook me in the first few pages that I read.
That's
that's
a great
good.
I
book.
wanted to read
It's a
it,
great book.
and actually it was reminding me of we had Brian Cuban on the show, and he wrote The Ambulance Chaser, which is another fictional book but similar. And I was like, this is starting off. Now, Brian's on the left side. This will probably be a right side type of book.
It's my two loves, sci-fi and conservatism.
Yes.
Cool.
It's a good book.
So it's the sci-fi version of Atlas Shrugged.
It is kind of. I've heard people compare it to Atlas Shrugged. One of my favorite sci-fi series is Stargate SG-1
Oh,
and
cool.
Stargate Atlantis, and SGU not so much, but it's part of the fandom, so it's in there. And that was a tremendous influence. The military side was influenced a lot by SG-1. And my love and devotion for the military of the United States and respect for the military of the United States. When it was written, there was a lot of turmoil that was being ushered into the country by Obama. And,
There was a lot of turmoil at that time.
And so that's where I saw
Although
Obama going.
You know, there's a lot of turmoil on every presidential transition since Obama.
Since Obama, yeah.
I don't remember there being that much transition and turmoil between, because I remember I was born when Nixon was in office, and he resigned like right after, like within months of me being born, I think, because I was born in '74. And I remember Carter, and I definitely remember the transition of Carter to Reagan, and I remember the 1980 election. And there wasn't that much turmoil during that. And then, especially Reagan to Bush, there's hardly any. And then, really, I don't remember any kind of turmoil. Maybe I just didn't care at the time. But between Bush and Clinton,
there was no transit. There were plenty of problems with Clinton, but there were no transition issues. The transition, I think, the big problems with transition came into Trump.
yeah.
And actually Bush. Let's not forget
Well, the one I remember about Bush was they took all the W's off the keyboards.
hanging. Yeah, well, that and
Or the
also
hanging Chad
the
was
hanging
a major
Chads and all
issue.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. You know, which is kind of funny about this whole. If you have questions about the election, you can't ask it if you're a conservative. You can't ask the questions about the election. But from Bush to Trump to Kemp in Georgia, every single time a Democrat loses, they get to say that the Republican is illegitimate. They get to say that they don't trust the voting. They get to do all this stuff without being canceled.
That's actually true.
I mean, think about it. How many times has a Democrat stood in front and said, "I don't trust the voting machines. I don't trust any of this stuff," but they get to say it. But when a Republican says it, oh no, that's not allowed.
When you-
Hillary Clinton said it.
Hillary Clinton said her election
Yeah.
was stolen from her in
Yes.
2016.
Yes.
yeah.
But that's okay.
But she's still on social media.
Yeah, that's okay. So, and that's another thing. I can't stand double standards. I
don't like double standards.
I
either.
do not like double standards.
It's sickening how much the double standard is in place.
And it's sickening.
If it wasn't for double standards, they'd have no standards at all.
Exactly. But what's even more sickening is how much they're willing to accept it on the Republican side, to accept the double standard.
I don't get it.
That's why I'm not a Republican. I don't believe in surrendering.
So how would you describe yourself? I mean, I know conservative.
Yeah, conservative. Limited constitutional conservative. For a while there, it was Reagan conservative. It still is. That's very foundational. And then I've got to admit that Trump gave me a new perspective on America first. It's not America only, but look,
That's a good point.
I'll tell
That's
you
the first
guys.
time I've heard somebody say that.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Arkansas worker on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I saw this. Put out USA to Ukraine. Here's $8 billion. USA to Israel. Here's $3.3 billion. USA to Taiwan. Here's $1 billion. USA to Mississippi. Don't drink the water. I mean, it made you chuckle a little bit, and then you go, wait a minute. This is how we're running this country. That every other nation is first, and we're last.
Well, and then what about Flint in Flint,
Yeah.
Michigan? Didn't they have a water problem too?
Yes,
Did that
they
get
did.
fixed or no?
Eventually. But oddly enough, it was 40, 50 years of Democrat malfeasance and delinquency, and because there was a Republican governor at the time, he got the blame.
Well, if you look at the history of who's run the worst places in the country. I mean, just look at the history of it.
Yeah.
And look who was running it problematically during the civil rights eras.
Do you guys want to see? There is a 1-to-1 correlation, direct percentage correlation between the amount of power assumed by government and the decline of the American way of life, or the decline of our quality of life. The more government takes over, the crappier your life becomes. I hope I'm okay in saying.
Oh yeah,
when
you're
people,
fine.
that's fine. when people talk about America and socialism, I was actually thinking today. We ran an errand and we're coming back, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? The government owns 30 to 50% of my business, and they always get paid, no matter what. Even when I don't, they always get paid.
Yep.
And how the Boston Tea Party, right? Mm-hmm. Wasn't that like a 2% tax? 2%. We're 20 times that now, and yet we tolerate it.
Out in California, believe it or not, California was the birthplace of the first real modern day tax revolt in the United States, because it got so oppressive for their day. Yeah. People out in San Francisco right now, you can't walk around without stepping in human feces. You can't. The kids.
I can't believe it. How bad it is.
It is terrible.
You've got to be kidding. And how come they don't want to fix it? I don't get it.
It's because it's politics. It's, again, bad policy. And the business owners are saying, what am I paying taxes for? What am I doing this for? So the businesses out in left-wing San Francisco are saying, you know what? We're just going to stop paying our taxes until you get your mind right, until you start adhering to what you were hired to do. Yeah. Your job isn't to get reelected. Your job is to serve the community. Mm-hmm. And we pay the freight as the taxpayers. And if you're not going to do your job, then we're not going to fund you. We need to have that mentality all over this country.
Oh, yes.
In the state of Texas, in every state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why wouldn't we fix our own backyard before we went into others?
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should shirk our responsibilities.
Well, all of a sudden, Ukraine gets invaded. Are you aware of what Putin has said that his reasons were for invading Ukraine?
Yes, I am.
What are they?
Well, his justification is the expansion of NATO onto his borders. He is trying to create, he says, a buffer zone between the expansion of NATO and his own country. And so he used it for an excuse to go into Georgia. He used it for an excuse to go take the Crimea. He used it as an excuse to invade Ukraine. Really, what he's after is he's trying to recreate the Soviet Union.
Do you think it has anything to do with Hunter Biden's ties and what all was going on with the Ukrainian politics over there? That it has anything to do with some kind of cover up, or somebody's got dirt on them?
Well, I heard reports that Vladimir Putin was about ready to come to an agreement with Zelensky of Ukraine, and then the UK Prime Minister traveled over there and to Ukraine and put the kibosh on that agreement, pre-invasion. I've heard that. I'm not sure if it's true, but it's out there in the ether.
It's so hard for us to know what is actually happening.
Was there corruption over there? Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
But it wasn't just Democrats.
Right.
It wasn't just Democrats. It was the American government. And those who were invested in this war happening, there were a lot of politicos over here who were invested in, hey, let's just make sure that all that evidence is destroyed in some Russian shelling, you know. At the same time, there's a proxy war going on right now between the United States and the West and Russia, because Russia has teamed up with communist China.
Yeah.
Russia is weak, and they are sidling up with the power they believe is going to be the world's superpower, which is China. Because look at who they have to choose from. Xi Jinping, a dictator in China, or Joe Biden. Who are you going to put your faith in?
Joe Biden, who probably
I've-
has dementia.
I've seen Putin talk about. He goes, it doesn't matter who's in power in the United States. They come and they go,
Yeah. Well,
and we basically know what
Well,
they're
we're-
going to do.
We're kind of a joke when it comes to the other countries. I mean, there's not a fear. I don't feel like a lot of the other countries fear us like they used to.
well, they don't, because our military is concentrating on wearing high heels and drumming out individuals who.
That is the most brilliant way to. And was it Khrushchev or who?
It was
They said,
Khrushchev.
yeah, we'll destroy them from the inside.
From the inside. Well, Lincoln also had a lament that the United States won't fall because of anything that's done externally. It'll be something that's from the inside. And again, it goes right back to how the conversation we've been having about the Constitution. If both political parties adhere to the Constitution, America would remain strong. And so long as that Constitution was the lifeblood of this country and running through this country, America was consistent. And then we were respected. And because we were strong, we were feared. I would prefer the communists and the terrorists of the world to fear us. I have no problem with that, if not respect us. But as we have wandered away from the rule of law, as we have turned our own government against our own people, you're seeing the decline of the American experience and the decline of the American experiment. And every year that we wander farther away from that Constitution is a year we get further and further and further into despotism and authoritarianism.
So speaking of that, the student loan bailout. What are your thoughts on that?
It's it's socialism.
It is socialism.
It is socialism, pure and simple, and it's a slap in the face to those who, like me, I worked my way through school. I don't know anybody anything, but now all of a sudden, Joe Biden's putting me on the hook to pay for somebody else.
Right.
It's a slap in the face to all those who worked very hard to pay off their student loans.
Mm-hmm.
And exactly.
You never even had them.
I had for just a
She
bit.
paid hers off in what, 4 months, 6 months?
Yeah, a couple months.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. And then what?
I worked my way through school.
What about these blue collar folks who didn't go to college?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their kids and
Right.
them, they have to pay for other kids to go to college?
Right. Some blue collar mechanic who makes a decent living is going to have to now pay for Chloe's education. She's a gender studies major.
Right.
4 year,
Unbelievable.
who doesn't contribute a damn thing to this country.
Right.
The blue collar
but
mechanic
thinks that she is highly entitled
Oh,
and,
yes.
and highly worth it
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
when she has absolutely zero economic benefit to the market.
Yeah, and you know what? And what about why are we poo pooing those who work with their hands these days?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, when you're white collar, you're gonna. I think, there's this term higher education. You know what we ought to do is anything after 12th grade is higher education, whether you go into a trade or whether you go into a 4-year
I
I
degree.
think so.
I agree. And what's going to happen when you need a plumber and you can't find one because no one went to school to become one,
Right, exactly.
or even just learned how to be one? And what's going to happen? Because I tell my kids, hey, you want to have like a great own your own company and
Yeah.
make a lot of money? Because I see it where we live. Most of the people out where I live in Sunnyvale, so a lot of them own their own businesses, and they have plumbing companies, electrical companies, fencing companies,
Well-
and they are doing extremely well.
What's the guy's name? Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe.
Yeah.
Dirty jobs.
Exactly.
You can. My little girl had one of her 6 cylinders go out to fuel injector in a Santa Fe that she drives. $1,200 to get the one injector done. I mean, that's real good money. And that was a bargain. Some of the other people wanted $1,700. So what happens?
I wonder how long did it take the mechanic to do that?
Probably took him six hours.
Good money.
Yeah, it's great money.
Good money.
It's great money.
Great money.
And you can build a business. You can, if you have a trade, you can start generating wealth and you can start generating value in the society right away. Where it's going to take Chloe, the gender studies major, maybe her entire life before she contributes anything that's meaningful.
She's always going to be broke, and she's always going to be mad that the government's not giving it to her. Because
Exactly.
the government has become her father,
Exactly.
her mother,
Exactly.
the family.
Our the way we fix America is we get our priorities straight.
Yep.
We start getting our priorities straight, and frankly, it goes right back to education, the discussion we had before.
That's the entire point of this podcast. That's why we do this every day, is
Yep.
to educate. And I feel burdened by having to do this, because if I I can live the life of Riley. Like, I can have an amazing life, and I mean, this is not a cheap endeavor to do this and to build this, and in terms of time. And I got other people that would pay me money to do other things, and I can be very well off for the rest of my life and not give anything back and be selfish.
Well, let me ask you the question then. Why do you do this?
To give back, because I have been blessed with knowledge, mostly. I've been blessed with all kinds of stuff, but the stuff is a result of the knowledge that I have. And I feel like if I don't share it, then I didn't deserve it.
Do you know the difference between you and a left-winger? A left-winger says, I've been blessed and I want more. I've been blessed and I deserve this. This is the ideological difference between me and our ideological enemies, is that I see the blessings, I value the blessings, I covet the blessings, and I want to preserve them.
Yep.
I think for
this
me.
podcast is me preserving the blessing.
There you go.
And magnifying out and sharing the blessings with everybody, because the knowledge that I put into this and what we are trying to teach is immense, and it's the blessing, because I want more people to be able to do what I've done.
Where's your faith?
And Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I meant, is that a driving force? Because I think
it is the driving force. It is that if I have any anxiety in my life, it is, Lord, am I doing enough for all that you've given me?
Exactly. See, we're reading from the same prayer book, because there's when you have a God-centered existence, there is that driving force that says, to those who are blessed, give back, share those blessings, impart those blessings, help when you can, push yourself to help others, and preserve that for the next generation. Those who are godless, and I'm going to say this because this is what I do, this is my observation. Those who are my political adversaries don't have that. They don't have it. You can't advocate the slaughter of 66 million children in the womb and say you have a conscience. And there is a reason why they lash out at people of faith, why they are so angry at us, and why they hate us. It is because we are driven by that. It's something they don't have, and there's
the God-shaped hole.
Yeah, exactly.
heart.
And they're trying to fill it with all this other stuff, and it's always going to be inadequate.
I went through a phase of that, and it is very, very empty.
Haven't we all?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so convinced. That's why I'm so certain. And I got that certainty, and I get confirmations of it over and over and over and over again.
When you can see it.
Oh, you can see it.
Yeah, exactly. When you're looking, you can see it.
Yes. It's very, very obvious.
My children were the first vision that I had that, wait a minute, Salcedo, come on, wake up. Look, I mean, what a tremendous gift. The first time I heard Daddy. It's transformational, isn't it? And that's why you got to do something. And that's
So here's something interesting. I don't even have kids. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have kids. I mean, it's his choice.
Yeah.
More like if he wants. So this happened once. Oh, okay.
You actually have some kids.
Summer? Hey, so Sharon's in the hospital. We just inherited 4 kids. Did you want to get food on the way to the hospital, or did you want to order for delivery there? What? Yeah, Chris, if you're ever at church and somebody goes, Mr. Chris,
yeah.
if something happens to me, will you take care of the kids? You say no.
Wow.
Yeah, we did the 18-month parenting plan. Say 18 years to live with us, but yeah, and 2.5 of them still like us.
That's
out of 4.
They
No,
took on
actually, I think they
teenagers.
all 4. I know they all 4. Kishara is always kind of the questionable one, but we love them and they love us. Jonathan is the one. I mean, he calls me dad. We're dad and son, and the youngest was 16 at the time. Sharon actually passed the morning after her 16th birthday.
Wow.
And it was an adventure. And they're so.
Well,
I'm going to say this: they're
they're
black.
What a great.
So I can say I got to put this on the record. They told me, Jonathan told me that I can say black because they say. I was like, do we have to say African American? And they're like, we say black.
We say black. Yeah.
So I actually have like half a black card. I can say black. I can't drop an N-word.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
But what I was going to say is what a response to a calling to be.
It was no question.
To be a father when you didn't have to be.
Yeah, it was no question.
To fill that role, and I have a stepfather as well, and I thank him to this day. He's the one that I took about my first and only engine, took it apart and put it back together with him. He taught me things, and he didn't have to do it. He could have been my mother's husband and didn't have to be a father, but he chose to be a father too. He didn't have to.
We see a lot of that. We see a lot of both sides of that. So I don't know if you know, but our firm does family law and estate planning and probate. Mm-hmm. So it's basically anybody coming into the family or anybody going out of the family. The best ones are coming into the family, especially the adoptions. But how many people you know are adopted versus how many people you know are divorced? And our main brand is soft divorce because divorce doesn't have to be so hard.
Right.
What we're trying to do is repel people that want revenge. We have a very strict no revenge policy, and we also own harddivorce.com too, which has your spouse threatened to take your kids away from you, ruin you financially, and make your life a living nightmare. We call that a hard divorce. If that's not what you want, we're here to protect you from that. But if you want a hard divorce, we're definitely the wrong law firm for you. Because if you want revenge, we're not going to be happy with you, you're not going to be happy with us, and we're the wrong law firm. But if you want to get through the divorce process in the healthiest way possible, then we're the firm for you. And I wouldn't wish a divorce on anyone.
I was going to say, isn't that the most tragic?
Exactly. And when Summer, and we had this conversation, I was like, I think I'm being called in to do divorces. And she was like, no, Palmer, no, do not. No. And I was like, I know.
Have you reconciled anybody?
Oh,
Yes,
all the
a
time.
lot.
Really?
Yeah, that's my mission in life.
Dude, I have got to hear the story.
I am the guard at the gate. And my general rule is thou shalt not pass. Because if you pass me, you have to get a divorce.
He
I
will
wouldn't
tell
wish a divorce
people,
on anyone.
he does it all the time. If they're on the phone with him and he's talking to them and he's like, you don't need a divorce.
You're not ready to get a divorce
yet.
You need to keep working on this. You need to go to counseling. You need to stop.
He does it all the time.
I have infinity business. My hourly rate right now, as we're filming this, and it's about to probably increase again, is $700 an hour. And I could work 24 hours a day at $700 an hour for people willing to pay me. Please, Dana, help me. In infinity business. And it's because I do what is right every case. Every case is I want to get you through the process in the healthiest way possible, as quickly as we can, whatever that customized, whatever that is for you. And as opposed to lawyers who, I call that farming attorney, as opposed to a hunter attorney. They kill, strip to the bone, and leave for dead. They got to get as much money out of every client because they don't know where the next meal's coming from. We're 16 years and 3 days, or 2 days or something. We just celebrated our anniversary on September 1st. I've never been caught up in 16 years. I've never had a day or a moment where I go, we don't have any work to do tomorrow. I don't have any money in my trust account to bill against. How do we pay bills tomorrow? Mm-hmm. What am I going to do? Oh, I gotta find work that I don't really need to do for a client in order to whatever. That's never happened.
How rare it is to have an attorney that look. As much as I'd love to take your money, you really don't need to. You don't need to do. You need to. You need to get rid of me as an attorney and not pay me and go work on your marriage.
Absolutely.
And that's probably again.
We should probably count because I've lost.
Since I've been with the firm, it's been
that's amazing.
A good amount.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And she's been. What are you? You're a little more than a year.
Yeah.
And
the way I see you doing it, and the way you're helping people, because at the end of the day, like our whole goal is to get people through this process in the healthiest way possible.
Yeah.
That's our
we
goal.
want
Our
parents-
goalpost is healthy.
We want parents
whatever that
to
is.
co-parent. We don't want parents to be fighting and the children are having to deal with all that and then they feel bad and like that's not our goal.
That was me. I was. My sister and I were the kids
In the middle.
of a bad divorce,
Yeah.
and it's
Just
it's,
because, so here's some principles. Here's some principles for everybody. Just because you're not going to live together as spouses, the reward for marrying you and it not working out should not be destruction of the person who trusted you enough to marry you. And revenge has no point in this.
and to have kids with you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to be mom, they're always going to be dad, vice versa. And your kids need you to both be as good of parents as you can be. Mom should want dad to be as good of a dad as he can be. Dad should want mom to be as good of a mom as she can be. Just because you're not living together as husband and wife doesn't stop you from being mom and dad anymore. You're always going to be mom and dad no matter what. And the kids are also going to judge you for what you do,
Right.
not for what you say, especially not what you say about the other parent. Because if you talk bad about the other parent, it only makes you look bad.
Yep. I had a parent that did that to the other parent, and I can testify to that.
Chris, thanks so much,
Yeah,
and we'll look
thank
forward to
you.
seeing you. Your show, 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, 3 to 4 on Central Time, and
On Newsmax.
on Newsmax.
Yep. And then in the morning, KSEV on 7 o'clock in the morning to 9 Central.
And Liberty Rises, great book.
Yes.
And
Go purchase it today.
there might be an audio version of this read by yours truly. There'll be at least an hour worth of me reading this
That's going to be
to
awesome.
see how far I can get. And I'm either going to give up on it or maybe I'll get the whole thing done. And
Dude,
then,
if you can do that, you'd be doing me a solid. That'd be great.
Are you thinking, how are you going to have time for that?
I've given up.
Perfect. Then I've trained Jennifer right, and we'll see you on the next episode of the
Go with
Lawyer Dana
God.
podcast.
Bye.
The Lawyer Dana Podcast.